You're welcome to Bubbling 247 podcast. My name is Tomilola Boyinde. I am your host. This is the first episode, and this is one of many to come. On this podcast, we have real conversation with people who are shaping the future of tomorrow today. We don't just talk about what is trending. We talk about what is possible. We talk about what is coming. And of course, we inspire you to be what is next. So we get to explore the intersection of creativity, emerging technology, and innovations. And today, I have a guest who I'll be having a conversation with. We get to talk about how artificial intelligence and human strategies will reshape the future of work. So my guest is Martin Ilesanmi. He's a generative AI enthusiast. He's a global product operations manager of a global organization, and he has worked with different organizations, and he has seen core AI being deployed at his place of work. So we'll be talking about all of his experiences and how we insight about how AI can be leveraged or employed across different sectors in Africa and other emerging markets like Nigeria. So, but before we dive deep into conversation, I of course enjoy you or employ you or beg you, to subscribe to our channel, share with your people, with your family, with your colleagues or friends, and like and also follow us across our social platforms. So let's get into conversation with Martin Ilesanmi.
Bubbling 247 is a podcast exploring the intersection of creativity, technology, innovation, and everything in between through insightful conversations with thought leaders and disruptors worldwide. We dive into ideas that ignite, stories that inspire, and people boldly shaping tomorrow. Hosted and executive produced by Tomilola Boyinde. Bubbling 247 is a platform committed to showcasing forward-thinking ideas, compelling stories, and diverse voices that are shaping the future of our world. Each episode is carefully crafted to engage listeners with thought-provoking conversations that inspire innovation, fuel creativity, and spark transformative action. With a strong focus on meaningful dialogue and visionary insight, Bubbling 247 serves as a source of inspiration for creators, innovators, entrepreneurs, and curious minds. It invites audiences to explore new possibilities, challenge conventional thinking, and embrace the bold ideas that define the next generation of progress. Join us every week on YouTube at Bubbling 247 and be part of the conversation shaping tomorrow.
Hi, Martin. Thank you for coming on this platform to have conversation with me about generative AI and how artificial intelligence and how human-centered strategies will reshape the future of work. But before we dive deep into conversation, I would actually, of course, our viewers and listeners will also like to know a bit about your journey, a bit about how you got into tech and what you've been up to, maybe in some years back.
Yeah, I think you're trying to ask about my part,
Yes.
to the global platform, and I think which is tech. Yeah, it's a long journey, honestly, right? I've the honest truth, I've always wanted to be a medical doctor, not even
Interesting.
tech guy.
Interesting.
I've always wanted to be a medical
Interesting.
doctor, and I put in for medicine at Ladoke University of Technology, right? But I wasn't given medicine. I was given a Greek, yeah, agricultural extension, economics and extension. Then that's in 2007, right? But after like I think after my first year in AE, right, I met a guy, and we used to call him Arsenal, right? He's a very passionate lover of Arsenal Football Club. So the boss, the Egbon was like, it was like one of the few guys I look up to when I came to Lautech because we're living in the same lodge. I'm always very fascinated how he plays with computer and all sort of thing. And I think that's the first time I lay my hands on computer, right?
Interesting.
And that really changed my mindset about going to, medicine, and through him, I moved from AE to computer engineering.
Engineering. Wow.
Yeah. And I would say it's not only about the tech too, because when you see where I am today, the leadership skills is also very, very most important to my growth. So in Lautech too, and not before the Lautech too, we are all colleagues from the same secondary school, Bachelor French Academy, one of the best.
Yeah.
That produced all of us, right? I was a
Yeah.
favorite boy,
Yeah.
I've been used to that leadership stuff,
Oh yes.
the politics way of getting into leadership, leading people. So like LAUTECH too, I was the class governor, right, for computer engineering for 5 years.
Wow.
So plus, trying to get into computer science, programming. Then I started with writing C sharp at some point, or writing PHP, leaving LAUTECH, yeah. Boom, to service here. At service here, I was posted to River State, Port Harcourt, precisely. And I would say that I was posted to one local primary school, but I know, deep down me that I don't want to teach or something like that. I left the local environment to the major town. They call it Bori, Kana local government, and I went straight to the ICT.
That's River State.
Yeah, River State. Yeah, and I went straight to the ICT unit, and I introduced myself that I want to see the director of ICT.
Interesting.
And when I got there, I told him that I'm a copper, that I was posted to, you know, one local area that to be teaching, and I said I don't want to teach. This is what I can do. This is what I can offer. I told him about, then I've been writing programming. I said I'm a programmer, I write this, that. And luckily for me, they were doing all this distant learning for their age people then. Maybe people that they're into uh maybe they are into buying and selling, and they just want them to learn a little bit about the basic computer skills. They call
Yeah.
distant learning. I say, hey, copper, not a problem, right? But I can't move you from a primary station. But if you can be offering us, helping us to teach these people, then that would be exciting. Boom! I was giving computer, I was
Wow.
giving an office, and I
Wow.
was the one teaching. I was the one leading the distant learning. I led distant learning for um River State Polytechnic, Bori, for one
Wow.
year, right? I was teaching although it's a different experience, because teaching old people, you have to come down to their level. So I
Yeah.
teach them how to use Excel, Word, all those basic computer skill set and the likes. Yeah, so you can see throughout the whole journey, I've been very, very intentional of what I want to become,
One.
right? So leaving River State back to Lagos, it's very difficult to get job. At some point, I was junior programmer for one company in Yaba. From there, I moved to Salat as a Avaya engineer. So I was the one in charge of the interactive voice response, the
Oh,
IVR.
okay.
So when you are calling a Salat call center,
Call center.
press
Yes.
one,
Yes.
press one, press two, press three. I was the one doing
Okay.
those.
So you were the one behind those.
Yeah, we're the one doing those coding.
Interesting.
Then. So I was there, and from there, one of my bosses left Salah to a company called Novo Africa, and he said, "Hey, Matt, I need you here because there's some tax here." So we moved to Novo Africa as a head of IT, and they
Wow.
wanted to restructure their website. And he told the MD that I have one boy in Etisalat, let's bring him in, right? And he brought me in from Etisalat, so I restructured the old website of Novo Africa, and from there, I was assistant tech guy in Novo Africa, and eventually I became more or less like the head of IT in that unit.
Wow.
When the boss left after, and this is where everything changed.
Wow.
5 years in Novo Africa, I would say that the first 1 year is when I see that I'm very, very creative.
Wow.
After 1 year, I noticed that deep inside me, I know that I don't know anything any longer, because I was in general IT.
Oh,
I
okay.
was into networking, I was into repairs.
So that means you needed to sectionize.
Yeah, the way people always say IT guys in typical offices, they are like
Yeah.
gods.
Yeah. Yeah.
People
Of course.
always
Of course.
respect me, but then I have a lot of friends of mine doing so well than I was in. A good one is Okwemi Ahmed.
We all believe that you have the money. We believe that you IT guys
No,
have the
no.
money.
See,
You are money
thing,
bags.
the thing is not like that. It takes a lot of sacrifice to start making money from IT. Then I innovate how much I was in Extras. I was earning 50,000 a month. When I was junior
Wow.
IT, I was earning 25,000 a month, and
Wow.
I was staying at Ijushaga. I was working in Yaba,
Wow.
and when I innovate, I was earning 100,000 a month, and I was on 100,000 a month for 5 years. Then I have a friend of mine. He has been traveling all around the country, and that's something about circle.
Yeah.
I don't jealous my friends. I
Wow.
rather move close to them to know what they are doing differently. Okoyemi Ahmed has been doing so well. He has been traveling across the globe, doing so well. Any big, then he was working with Andela as a
Okay, yeah,
senior
Andela,
IT, yeah, as a senior IT guy. And then me, I was just and so each time we meet, we always have like this virtual talks. Hey, Matt, you don't know anything, no. You need to improve. You
yeah.
need to, so I always because it's like it's more than a friend, it's my family,
Yeah.
And this is one of the exceptional guy I have in my life, even to date, So I was there 5 years. I go to the MD that I need an increase in pay. She said that she can't do anything, she can't do sort. So then I used to take one of a friend when I'm coming from Fagba. I stay at Fagba in Lagos. And then I work in Oniru. Oniru is in Novo. So I used to drop my friend. My friend also works in Microsoft now. Makide,
Okay.
Tunde Makide. He works with one company called Tech Expert. Then Tech Expert just came to
Oh
Nigeria.
yes, yes. I knew at that time because I had a friend who, like a brother, who later worked with that organization.
So they
Yeah.
were in the West Wing and East Wing, right? So I used to drop
Yes.
Makide at that West Wing. So the environment, it's crazy. Like I always dream like God. I just Makide helped my life. I said Makide, and Makide was my friend, was my colleague in Lautech. We both finished from computer engineering.
Oh.
So it's a guy I also respect me because I was their class governor. I said, okay, Martin, don't worry, I'm going to talk to. So then they started with Azure.
Yeah,
They've not
Microsoft
started
Azure.
with Office 365. So when they started with Office 365, Makide recommended me. They called me for interview. And boom, I didn't hear anything. At that point in time, in Novoet, right, I was earning like, so I was 100,000 plus. They added, after I completed, I want to leave. They said they were going to add some. They added 20,000 or so, right? And at some point, I get frustrated that I wasn't growing and I resigned from Novoet. And the craziest part of it is that I've not even gotten an appointment from Tech Expert when I resigned.
When you
I
resigned.
didn't tell any of my family because if I tell any of my friends I want to resign, they will not let me resign because I say, hey, don't become a liability on us. I
Yeah.
resigned. I went back home and I was telling my friends that I'm on leave. And
Wow.
I was with Faith. I was waiting for Tech Expert to call me.
To call you.
Eventually, Tech Expert called after like 2 weeks, which is that 2 weeks like a dead week for me. Like, I was like, am I going to get this job? Or am I going to get? But one thing is starting me that I don't want to continue in the same old way.
In the same old
Right.
way. Yeah.
I entered Tech Expert. We're the first set in Tech Expert for 365. We trained for 6 months, and I think that is what changed everything about my life.
About your life.
That is when I start feeling I'm a tech guy. And I begin to know I've now become, an expert in exchange and identity.
So what were the projects you took on when you were tech expert that changed things for you?
Tech Expert, I spent 9 months in Tech Expert. That's how crazy it is. I didn't spend more than 9 months in Tech Expert. But Tech Expert trained us for 6 months, if I'm not mistaken. And we're actually supporting Microsoft customers globally, right? So that also changed my confidence talking to people. I struggled in Tech Expert. I had a very thick accent, right? I was very technical guy because I've been doing a little bit of Office 365 from Novo
Yeah.
Africa because I was one that also helped them to onboard. I was one that helped Novo Africa to onboard to Office 365 to the cloud. So I know Office 365, so technically I was sound, but I struggled dealing with, talking to British, you're talking to people across the globe, to Americans. So sometimes I'm always scared to talk to customers. So I think in Tech Expert, I was built to know how to talk to customers globally, right? And I became an SME after like 2-3 months, subject matter expert. I was leading team of like, 10 engineers. And I was very intentional. I wrote over 15 certification in the space of 9 months.
Wow.
Tech Expert was giving me 150,000 in a month. I was writing each certification 50,000.
But at that time, where were you living? Because knowing the economic dynamics of Lagos, like
I,
where were
I
you
was saying,
staying and how were you able to
I say in
navigate all
fact,
of this commitment?
I was saying in fact, I used to use one car then, one small car. My brother bought it for me. That car, right? I would pick people going to that. That's how I survive. I pick people going to Lekki, to 200 naira, right? And when I drop them, I'll make 1,000 naira, right? I will buy fuel of 500 naira into the car, right? I'll use the
Wow.
200 naira out of it to eat. Then I keep 200 naira. And I think that's how I was living my life. I was literally living from mouth to mouth. The money I was making from Tech Expert, I was putting into writing certifications. And most often, our circle then, shout out to the likes of Pokola, Popsin, a lot of great guys, Father, I used to call a guy, a lot of them like that, they were set, Kisling, Mayowa. We used to sleep, and people don't know. Me, Popola, and some people, we used to sleep inside Tech Expert. Not because we want to sleep, but because we don't have money to go.
You don't have money to go.
Then we convert it to reading. Tech Expert had a very spacious
yeah.
space. We read in there. We'll be troubleshooting problems. We'll be learning from each other.
Learning from it. Wow.
So we were very passionate. Then when I started knowing about the product technology, which is Microsoft Exchange and Identity, then I started doing hands-on with Martini. So what I would do is I just pick one problem, maybe one typical problem a customer had today. Then I would do it live, how I solve it, writing scripts. Now I was doing all those things on LinkedIn. Just like what I used to do today. I talk a lot. I have my own podcast.
Oh yes, I've actually been following your podcast. I've watched all your episodes, and we will get down there. So we'll get down there. We just want to at least have an idea of your growth, how you've come, and of course, before we dive deep into more conversation about the main subject matter for the day.
Yeah. So I used to write out, I answer with Martini. I do labs, and somebody saw me on LinkedIn. That's the MD of Reliance Infosystem, Mr. Yemi.
Wow.
And Richard said, "Are you up for another opportunity?" I said, "Yeah." Boom. I was asked to come for interview. Came for interview. It was very crazy. The likes of Mr. Great guys, great bosses guys there. They gave me real life scenarios. I was sweating, under the AC, and I joined the Reliance Infosystem, and my salary tripled. I think I was offered 300,000 in Reliance Infosystem from 150 from Tech Expert, 300,000. And Reliance Infosystem is another experience entirely because they are MSPs. In Tech Expert, it's more or less like break and fix, right? And Reliance Infosystem, I learned how to deploy. I learned more of technical pre-sales. It's because these are the core two sides of Reliance Infosystem: deployment of the product itself. I work with a lot of big project banks, a lot of big enterprise, and in Reliance, then people have started leaving Tech Experts, having opportunity to join Microsoft project on Upwork. I tried 5 times. I was rejected 5 times
on Upwork.
Yeah.
What was it? What were the reasons why you were rejected?
Good. The problem still likes the fact that I have thick accent. You are very good technically, but you have thick accent.
But you have thick accent.
At some point, I have to go and take communication courses, and I came back, and for us, it's very easy now. When they reject you, you can only apply after 6 months. So imagine that's like it takes me like
a couple of months,
yeah. So I went for communication classes, and one day the recruiter just reached out to me again on LinkedIn and say, "Are you up for another opportunity?" And that's when they launched Windows 11.
Okay.
I say, "Yes, I'm open." And I was like, "I hope you guys won't say that I have thick accent again. I've done communication class, so I've done all this." Yeah. Boom. Go to the interview. It wasn't an interview. It was just a conversation.
Wow.
And that's the first time I met Clement Gomez. Right, he was the operation manager for Microsoft then.
For Microsoft,
with Nuri Lopez and all stuff. We met, we talked about the project. I was the first set of people. We were 5 people that was recruited to support Windows 11 globally.
Wow.
With enterprise customer. And I've never worked on Windows. I've never supported Windows. I'm more or less like an exchange and identity guy. So I have to learn new things. I have to keep learning about Windows, right? So I was there, but one thing that comes to my mind is I see opportunity. Because the money they offered me wasn't the most important thing then. I was offered $3 per hour. When my friends on Global English with Microsoft are already earning like $12, $10 per hour.
At that time.
But that doesn't come to my end. The truth is just that I just want to work for Microsoft.
Yeah.
Right? Then I see opportunity. Opportunities is especially in a big organization is when you're on a small project. That project can become a bigger one.
Yeah.
It becomes a bigger one. Those people that start it, you have the chances of becoming a bigger person.
Becoming a bigger person, yeah. Oh yes.
The Windows project was successful. I became team lead. From there, I was moved to go and support OneDrive Personal as a team lead. From OneDrive, I jumped on another project as an operation manager. From there, there was an opportunity in Global English, right? I was asked to go and lead Global. So Global English is just like, you're supporting EMEA and you're leading, hundreds of engineers.
Hundreds of
Of
engineers,
Microsoft
yeah.
365,
Yeah.
I was moved on that project. And then there's a time Microsoft started what we call Magic Carpet. Now they call it Business Advisors Reactive, right? When the project started, then Erin, my good boss, I love her so much, say, Martin, you'll be doing so well. You can jump on this project. I jump on that project as acting program manager, and I delivered that project. The project was successful, and I became program manager. And that was the journey. So when you see the old stuff, just to round it up, you realize that some things are consistent here, which is the passion.
Yeah.
The second thing is that I wasn't putting money first. Passion was what is leading me, right?
Yes.
Then those things that we learn in Banjolat, those things we learn when we're growing up, resilience, leadership, those political stuffs that we learn, because now every organization is a very political environment, right?
Oh, yes.
You have to know how to play your games. You have to know when the odds is against you, or is alongside with you, and also understand all those thoughts. I think those are the things that works for me, and I think that's just the journey.
The journey. I think if you look at the journey so far, your journey has been marked with remarkable dedication, strong willness, and strong-headedness, and of course, you knew where you were going, right? You had, I believe that you had a vision of where you want to be, going forward, and you were ready to give it all it takes, to ensure that you get to that global platform that you seek, even while you were in Yaba, or where you were working with different organizations, and any peanut or a peanut or next to nothing. But in all of this, I believe that you must have faced quite a lot of. You've highlighted some of those challenges that you faced, most especially in terms of the accent, and you also had to
go
ahead to equip yourself in terms of communication skills. And I'm actually so surprised when you said you don't talk. You have not been talking to. Before now, you don't really talk to people that much. I'm surprised because knowing where you come from, knowing where we come from, and the kind of training that we had right from school.
So I know where you're going. I know where you're going, right? I should be ashamed of myself because
I'm surprised.
No, in school too. If you go through my history, right? My history, I'm always the one coming first in my class.
Of course.
But when you go through my history, English is always the poorest result.
And
that's why me and Ruth, better so rest in perfect peace. We are never in sync.
In sync, yeah.
Because number one, right? I struggle with English in Banjolat, but where my strength has they are in physics, mathematics, further mathematics, chemistry, all those are my strength. But English, if you go through my result in Banjula, you know that English, I always like maybe 10th position or 12th position. But other English, Yoruba, and French, I hate those three courses. All those language courses. I just like them. But other ones, the gap, I'm going to give the second, So this is, and I think I regret the fact that I didn't take it serious when I was in secondary school. Then they asked people to buy dictionary. I would never bring my dictionary to class. They always send me out of the class, English class.
And to even think that the proprietor, Rotarian Banjola Tono, was always, was so particular about that English, about dictionary,
we were so foolish that we always say, is it always about antonyms and synonyms?
Yes.
See, honestly, I hope a lot of Banjola students are seeing this. This was the problem I faced at the point of my life.
Wow.
Even when I wanted to leave the country, I was writing IELTS. I was struggling. I was writing IELTS like 6 times.
Wow.
I'm being honest. I have nothing to lose, right? Saying the truth,
Yeah, of course.
So this has been the problem, and it has been it has been because I was able to look into those challenges and overcome them.
It's good that you're able to look at those challenges and overcome them because those challenges alone, can doubt, you can can of course wear out your spirit in terms of knowing where you want to go, and how, and of
Exactly.
course keeping touch with how you want to, with your progress, with your journey, and your progress in
Exactly.
whatever you commit, or what the your career path. So I mean, looking back now, what are the, like, some learnings that you've taken, and then of course what are the learning moments or failures that have been able to shape your career, mostly in your tech journey?
It still happen. Number one, I'm from beginning, I'm always this kind of person. I'm not a comfortable person, right? I always I call it, self-evaluation. I do that
Yeah,
a lot.
I do that
I
too.
try to evaluate even to process.
Yeah,
I'm the kind of crazy guy. I just am I actually growing? And
yeah.
I'm known for something. 1-2 years in a place, most likely I've known it all. That should be the time that I should just sit back and be enjoying the fruit of my labor.
Of your
But
labor,
that most
yeah,
time that's
yeah.
the time that I'm hungry to leave,
To leave, oh, yeah.
right? Because I need something more for myself. Then another thing I would say is rejection. Rejection is painful, and it's still to today.
Actually, it is.
It's very, very painful. I still apply for jobs today. I get a lot of rejections. Uh, I cry. We are still
You
ambitious.
cry for it.
Yeah, hey mate, I cry. But the thing is that the more you go, there are still a lot. People
I
can
actually believe, because there are some jobs that you give your all to it when you are applying, and you go through different stages, and you believe within you, you already believe that you are the best candidate for that role, and unfortunately we cannot move forward with your
Yeah,
application.
yeah. So or you've invested a
You've
lot.
invested so
You've
much.
invested a
Yeah,
lot.
yes.
I went for one interview last year. I traveled outside. I traveled outside London, to an European
So
place, and great interview, every stuff. I was telling my family, hey, yeah, I'm getting this
I'm
shit,
moving.
and even though I'm working with Microsoft, I still want more for myself. So
Yeah,
now rejections is one thing that we all need to understand, that
yeah,
we need to work on, to
yeah,
know how to manage it. It's
yeah.
difficult. It's always difficult for
It
me, but
actually, yeah, yeah, it
but
is.
when I tell you about my journey, right? I was rejected 5 times, and I even talk about rejections when I was looking for a job in Lagos. I
Lagos.
was robbed.
Wow.
Imagine going for an interviews in Ikeja,
And you
and
got robbed.
I jumped in the answer of all these 419s. They collected my phone, collected my laptop, they collected my sleepers. I used beer footage to walk from
To
Ikeja to Fagba.
wow.
So a lot of stuff people don't know. Just that what people see is more of the sources,
Yeah,
right? They see more of
yeah.
the sources than you know. Then I think consistent. You have to keep growing. You
You
have
have to
to
keep
keep,
going.
a lot of businesses I've done in Lagos. A lot of ideas I've put in place that never worked. Right? You keep trying. You keep trying. So I
Yeah.
think all these things are, all put together works for me. If I
Okay.
if I must say, yeah.
I mean that's actually quite interesting to know, and it's good to know that in all of this, that you, despite the challenges, despite the rejection, you still continue to forge ahead. Even personally too, of course I face a lot of rejections, and I face that, of course, there are some applications I put forward, I apply for, that opportunities I apply for, and I don't get to, I don't get them, and I get rejected. Sometimes when I look at it, and I think I'm the best candidate for this, but
Yeah.
unfortunately for me, I have learned to build mechanism around myself, such that no matter how, whatever rejection I get, the only thing what I do is I just delete them out of my email box. To be I just, once I receive them, I don't take them to heart again, because I could remember there was, in fact, not long ago, I had to travel down to London. I had to travel down for that interview. We spoke. We were just two candidates. We were interviewed for that. It was a marketing technology role. Like,
Okay.
we're just two candidates. They needed people to start. They needed people, that person to start immediately. But
Yeah.
I was, based on other engagements
Yeah.
on my table. I couldn't
Okay.
start immediately. Right, I had to. I needed like 4 weeks.
Yeah.
For under 4 weeks, such that I can hand over whatever project that is with on my table, and then
Yeah.
I can get engaged with the organization.
Yeah.
But I already knew. Actually, I was already sensing it, because in conversation they were talking about the fact that they need someone to start immediately because they don't have the time to waste.
Yeah.
There's a lot of projects on their table, which of course I understand. But they, when the whole thing came, they sent rejection. I understand. What I just told them is, you know what, what I did. I snapped okay. I just downloaded my travel tickets and sent to them for them to refund. Now, at least if you don't give me the job, you should be able to refund me my money, right? So, but it's quite interesting to And before we even move on to the other part of the conversation today, I would actually also like to give shout outs to Banjolat,
Yeah.
because this is an institution
Made us.
that made us, right? We will not be standing tall today in different parts, in different field that we find ourselves without the foundation that these institutions give us, right?
Agree.
In terms of, is it public speaking, in terms of even competitiveness, in terms of
Ruggedness.
intellectual stimulating engagement.
Yeah,
Because
ruggedness. The political stuff.
the
Sir, you
political stuff,
actually,
you don't get this. I still remember the times when we had to campaign, canvass
yeah,
for votes. During my own time, I also happened to be the senior private boy. During my
yeah.
own time, I had to even paste post. I went further to paste posters,
Yes.
and I wrote articles. I pasted it on different boards just to canvass the vote of the students. It's quite interesting. So shout out to
Yeah,
Banjala Friendship Academy, Petu Jesha,
yeah,
for giving us that solid foundation. So moving on to the main conversation for today, we want to talk about artificial intelligence and how artificial intelligence and human centered strategies will reshape the future of work. I mean, looking at the level that you're operating at the moment at the global scale, your operation is big on what you do now. As a global product operations manager at Microsoft, I believe that Microsoft being one of the forward-thinking organizations in the world, I believe the organization would of course be leveraging artificial intelligence in terms of operations and in terms of the workforce management. So how is AI at the moment fundamentally shaping or reshaping the way that you work and how you manage your team?
so the honest truth is, and I would say that Microsoft is one of the leading giant tech,
Yeah.
organization out there, right? And I think innovation is the core driver to why they are leading, right? And it comes to AI, of course we have our own AI co-pilot, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to operation, what people don't understand is that AI is not meant to replace people. And that's why you see when I talk a little bit more about human-centered revolutions, adoption of AI, I tell people that organizations that is replacing AI with people will suffer it, because that is the wrong use of artificial intelligence. Right? That is the wrong use of artificial intelligence. A lot of people are taking advantage of the AI to save costs. But the truth of the matter is that, right, AI is meant to be a co-pilot.
Well,
AI is meant to help to automate routines, tasks. Not
yeah.
that some people still not going to be displaced, right? And I think that is when people need to evaluate what I do in any organization. Is it what AI can actually replace me to? If it's something that is repetitive, think of any repetitive tasks.
Yeah.
Let's even leave the tech environment. Let's go to agriculture. Planting something today, you want to water it every day. It's a
Of
repetitive
course, it's
task.
a
AI
repeat
will
task.
do
Yeah.
it perfectly.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence is going to do it perfectly, right? Anything repetitive tasks. So in any operations, either in tech operations, any repetitive tasks, like in my own case, right? There was a time that the very foremost period I deployed Copilot is to solve, because I manage engineers that help customers to adopt Copilot, help customers to identify problems, business goals, then recommend how Copilot could help customers to solve technical related issues as regards Microsoft 365. I manage those kind of engineers. And when you're dealing with people, right, there's always the quality evaluations part of it, right?
Yeah.
People can say that
Yeah.
I do this, I do that, and not in all calls that you have it recorded. And they will
Yeah.
say that, okay, go and track what you do, go and track what you said you did. Yeah. Some people formulate what they do, what they don't do with customer, they say that they do it with customer. Then we deploy AI. AI is like the middleman there that can
Yeah.
cross-check what you are doing with customer, cross-check to what you put in there, and can give a verdict of, okay, this is true. So from the quality point of view, we use AI, and actually what happened is that we used to use human being to do this, and often the quality team are always stressing, I'm tired, this is too work is too much. But do you know what? We have to start recruiting more overhead in quality department.
In quality department, wow.
And yeah, the quality has never improved. We started deploying AI. We're able to reduce the times it takes to actually check the quality of conversation engineers are having with customers and validate what they are doing. We're able to reduce it by like 90%.
Wow.
And we're also able to increase the quality. So you could understand saying that AI, it's meant to enhance operations.
Enhance operations.
It's meant to, improve the efficiency of operations. It's
Yeah.
meant to help to, automate, you know, um, you know, every routine task. Yeah, it's meant to, speed up decisions. It's meant to, enhance creativity, right? So that is what AI is meant to do. And I just give an example of how I was able to deploy AI.
Yeah.
Number one, to improve operations, creativity, quality of what I was doing within the engineers, within the operations, and before you know, it's the times it takes for us to pay engineers, because the way we always run the business in my own unit is that you pick customers cases, you solve customer cases, you track what you solve, right? The quality team will check what you did to what you put in
To
there.
confirm,
And sometimes it takes a week before they finish those kind of checks, before they can pay. Before you know, when we're using AI, we are paying between 2 days. Right? Because what these people are doing, reviewing like 10,000 cases in 3 days or in 5 days, AI is doing it in 1 day, in less than 1 day, in 2 hours. But we still need the people to do the cross check, because you can't 100% rely on AI, right? You also need to build what we call a fallback mechanism, right? And we've seen situations where the interpretation of what you put in through the Copilot agent or whatever you put inside to actually do your automations, AI could misinterpret, and this is where the generative AI comes in. Generative AI learns from the fact that, okay, you said that this is the AI says that this is the answer, but the human center says that, okay, you misinterpret this answer, and before you know, right, AI will never repeat that mistake. It will be able to learn on itself, that human side that said that, okay, this should be the direction, or this should be like, the inputs that you should have put into all these things,
So from your expert knowledge, right? You believe that AI, because at the moment there's been a lot of conversation about your people, the workforce, people should be scared about that AI is coming to take over their jobs, right? And then we've also been seeing some organizations some leaders of organizations writing to, for example, I think Duolingo, the CEO of Duolingo recently wrote to his staff that AI is coming for their job and also his own job, that of course they need to get ready for that, for what is to come, right? When it comes to the artificial intelligence and how it will reshape the approach to work, right? So, and there have been a lot of also talks that the fact that AI is coming to take over jobs, do you think that AI will take over the jobs, or AI will take over jobs of those people that are not AI inclined, or that have not been able to, learn about AI such that they can also apply their knowledge in the work that they do?
I think that's the answer. I'm not saying that AI will not take some jobs, and that's why you have to upskill yourself. AI will take routine jobs. You're kind of person that your job is all about, you're doing the same thing over and over. Once you did yesterday, it's just a repetitive job. AI would easily take up your job.
But looking at companies, looking at companies that, okay, for example, let's say in Africa, for example, right? We have our own challenges in terms of digital infrastructures, right? How can companies in this region balance efficiency, of course, and with empathy and application of AI in terms of the adoption of AI in the work that they do? How in of course, in the midst of the lack of digital capacity.
Yeah. So, and just before we go there, I've not really finished, the first question.
Okay.
AI taking people's job is going to be is dependent on the organization culture. If the organization culture is all about cutting costs, right, but they will pay for it more in bigger way if they rely 100% on artificial intelligence and cut away their people. it's understandable that AI is meant to help me to more productive. That is a thing. I'm in a production unit, right? But you deploy AI. So let's say the production unit, let's say in a bread making unit, where they make bread, it's more or less like the same routine. You deploy people there, and averagely they are making, let's say they are making 1,000 bread in a day in terms of productivity. You invest in AI, then they should be able to make 10,000 bread in a day. So that you're only enhancing your people to improve their productivity. And that should be the concept of how AI should be adopted. So now, who are the people that will be displaced? They are the people that doesn't want to upskill themselves on how to, use AI to improve their own productivity or to improve the organization's productivity.
Right.
But if you think that you want to deploy AI to remove that people, you will lose one day because the AI there will be malfunctioning, there will be glitch, right? And you will pay for it.
So we can't fully trust.
No, you can't fully trust AI at this point in time. You can't fully trust. I'm not saying that at some point we might get there, but
why is it that they've not been fully trained with enough data to make decisions?
It's not about the fully trained. Something about automation will always be automations. Anything mechanical will always be mechanical.
So there will always be need for human feedback.
There will always be need for human. You get it. There will always be that need. And I think that's what people should understand about this stuff, right? I once worked in an organization where they used to produce car, Vauxhall. I worked there, and that was when I was in my MBA. At some point I was doing a project, and I needed to just go and check in some things, So I applied there as a project student, And before I came in there, the man was telling me that before we used to produce 40 cars in a day. And then he told me that I've forgotten X number of staffs. But now they've deployed, a lot of robots that they are now producing like 1,000 cars in a day.
Wow.
And with that, their X number of staff need to increase. Their staff doesn't decrease.
Okay. Interesting.
So you can see, that's why I say it depends on the organization structure. On how you are. If there's some organizations, right, they will just use AI to replace people, right? But when you look at the quality of cars that these people produce, because Vauxhall is just like the typical Toyota in Nigeria or something like, it's very rugged and all stuff, right? The human-centered, adoption of AI with human-centered in between of the operations makes them to maintain their quality. And this is why this is a company that has been there since 200 years ago. The quality never drops.
Wow.
Does that make sense to you?
Actually, it does.
So now, who would lose their job? In my own opinion, there are people that they are so contented. They don't want to learn how AI could enhance them. It's just like you that are using data analysis. You're still relying on your strength, to use Excel. You need to go and learn Copilot in Excel, because not that Copilot in Excel will not just. It's a prompt. It's a prompt engineering.
Yeah.
But if you don't understand that prompt engineering, what to put into that Copilot, it will not give you the output.
Oh yeah, of course, yes.
Right? So now you have the technical knowledge. Now, how can you leverage Copilot with your technical knowledge to improve your productivity? By so doing, your data analysis should be able to increase by 200%.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. So that is the argument of, is AI going to replace people? It's going to replace people that doesn't want to learn how to use AI.
It's actually quite interesting based on this your perspective and your expertise and knowledge in this field. Because if I get it clearly now, with the example of the car manufacturer that you gave, how artificial intelligence has been able to even help them increase production, which means they would also need more capacity, human capacity.
Of course, because I work there. It's not about they told me and go and fact check what I'm saying. Then I was working in a unit, where they install the share, the front share.
Yeah.
The robot will carry the share, right? But you need to put a code, because there's a different code for each the kind of design of car you're doing. You need to put the code, and that's why the prompt engineering comes in. And if you put the wrong code, right, the robot's going to do the wrong thing.
Wow.
So when I put the code, right, if I'm doing it manually, right, maybe I'm in a car, maybe I'll be using like every car, I'll be using like 30 minutes to install, to do the screw and all sort, right? But with the robot, yeah, it's installing that, each the share within less than 1 minute.
Wow.
And before you know, the car is just moving, is moving.
Wow.
And but what people don't understand is that, yeah, there are a lot of car piled up. You can't do it. So one person have to deal with. So when I'm dealing with one car, another person is
Another
coming, is
person will
dealing with
have to
another
deal
car.
with the
So
other
the
one.
human usage is still there.
Wow.
Does that make sense to you?
It actually does. Actually, at this point, I would like to bring this conversation home, bring it home to our continent,
Yeah.
Africa. So, based on your own advice or based on your own expertise and your knowledge and based on the work that you do and your vast knowledge in this space, how do we prepare the next generation of African workers, for jobs in this era?
The honest truth, in Africa, we have a long way to go because some things are fundamentals to even deploying all these things.
Yeah.
Things are, knowledge is one, but there are still some infrastructures that is still not there in Africa. We're talking about power.
Yeah.
We're talking about enabling environment, right? And I think our government have a lot to do, and that's why you see a lot of us. We're looking for greener pasture in other countries, right? You have the knowledge, right? But when I was in Nigeria, my perception, the way I see things is totally different. The way I see what AI can do is totally different. I just give an example of what I see with my eyes myself, right?
Yeah.
And working with robots, I might never have seen that in Africa, right? So yeah, but education is also very key, right? Education is very, very key. And I think that's also a gap that we need to fill. So aside from the responsibility that the government needs to fill, I feel the responsibility that the government needs to fill is it's a lot. If you fix power in Africa, it's going to solve a lot of stuffs. I have the crazy ideas I have in mind that I want to even implement in Nigeria. I have a lot of problems I could solve.
Yeah.
I have a lot of problems I could solve in agriculture, some basic things, right? I have a lot of stuff that is killing people in Nigeria that we can deploy artificial intelligence to do. Right? We have a lot of sort, even our military. Not in all situations that you deploy soldiers, physical soldiers to go and you see physical soldiers trying to identify where there are bombs, mines on the road. What happens to AI?
Yeah.
And a lot of them, they just they just climb up miles, they get bombed. What is happening?
Yeah.
Thousands of soldiers are dying. So I don't even want to go into the the mindset shift. So the mindset shift is key in Africa.
But in terms of mindset shift, and but do you think that at the moment the awareness is enough when it comes to AI? That's one. And then in terms of I'll still go into policy conversation, and now of course we have quite a lot of conversations to even talk about in policy, or maybe we'll have that conversation with a policy expert or whatever. But in terms of the training, who should shoulder the training? Is it the government, or is it the public organizations, or private organizations rather, or every individual should just be? Because at the moment there's a lot of issues to tackle in that area.
It's interwoven. All right. If you want private organizations, to put in such things, private organization is all about profit, right? Then you need to put an enabling environment. They need to see the reward of their labor, right? So if we have a policy that is not even enabling private organizations to come back, and say that they want to come and do something at home, right? You would never see private organizations coming back home and say that I want to, some people are doing it. There are some patriots, the patriotic Nigerians like me. I mean, every year I come to Nigeria, I do open event. There's no year in the last 3 years I've been coming to Nigeria. There was a Tech in the Slum project I did. I was aware about that. I invested over 10 million naira, bro. I didn't see one thing like this.
Wow.
The project is still there. I'm still making efforts today to see Lagos State
Because
government to
government.
prepare my plan. I have all my proposals sent today. People are even asking me money to get my proposal close to the Lagos government.
Wow.
Somebody that wants to solve a problem. And what the problem we want to solve is that we want to use artificial intelligence to liberate people within the slum. We want to use artificial intelligence to solve problem of malaria.
Wow.
Right? We want to use artificial intelligence to, we want to also democratize freelancing. If you democratize freelancing, you give them enabling, sensation on freelancing, basic skills. Yeah, if 1, 2, 3 people is making like $200, $100 from that space, yeah, everybody's gonna leave. They will start living outside that. There will be mindset shift. But people are even asking me money before they can even allow me to even push my presentation.
Your presentation.
There was a time the Oyo State government come to London here. Myself and my friend Okoyemi Ahmed, we had a very clear proposal for the Oyo State government. We paid for the event. We paid like over £500 each for the event.
Wow.
And it's an event that you said that you need an investor. Bro, we didn't see governor. It get to our point to see governor. Some of the PAs are saying that we need to see them so that they can enhance us. See, me that I want to even to invest in because we're looking at the tourism side of your state. How we can actually, put in technology to attract, these are the things going to generate, so there's still a lot of problems, with us in Africa, right? That's one. So when you see the government is the core key to anything, I see a lot of people crying these days. See what happened in this beach that declare.
Yeah, the landmark.
I went to. Did you know the is it Tunnel Bridge in Newcastle?
Yeah.
The same thing that happened in Newcastle is what they could do in the landmark.
Landmark.
I was in landmark like 4 years ago. Beautiful place.
Yeah.
Do you know thousands of people that was employed?
Of course.
Just because you want to do a road that you can take out inside the sea. Go to Newcastle. There's a bridge, Tunnel Bridge in Newcastle. Is it Tunnel? What they call it? It's actually under the sea. The day I was driving from Newcastle to Nottingham. Is it Nottingham or whatever? And I noticed that
You're not on land again.
I'm inside the sea. And when I came out, I parked and I said, wow. This is just technology. Yeah. Do you know thousands of foreigners or people in the outside of the country that they have infrastructures that was demolished? I see a lot of those stuff. Now, tell me, how do people in outside, the country want to invest back home?
Because it's actually affected the whole ecosystem. Not even the business of landmark alone.
Yeah,
a lot of people are making money from that. So you
destroy a lot of properties, you destroy a lot of initiative, you destroy a big investment. And I stayed in the landmark for 2 days. I stayed in the hotel. I experienced that environment. I could imagine how much that guy has invested there. But a simple adoption of technology
could have changed the course of
changed the narrative. Yeah. It could have even attract in this Newcastle. Every day you pass that bridge, it is £5.
Wow.
Imagine you do that, and you say that you are passing this underground to this. It's 5,000. You know how much you're gonna make?
How much they make every day?
You don't need to put the kind of thing that they have in the league bridge now. You don't need to put people there. It's technology. That's what we're saying.
So which means that it comes to the fact that our government, needs to do more.
They have a lot.
In terms of maybe they have a lot to do. Maybe in terms of research or in terms of even the willingness to.
Nobody said that. No government will even do any research. You put out a policy that tech people like us to come home, and I'm still gonna come, and I'm planning a big project. I'm only just scared to even do anything in Lagos now, because you don't know what tomorrow will happen. Now somebody will just come and
because even looking at the history from is it Gokada or what was that? Because policies, the young government can just come up with any policy that would throw you off balance, and before you know it, all of your investments and your commitment, they are all gone. So that brings me to at the moment, startups are more like the backbone of the Nigerian economy at the moment. Different enterprises, small scale enterprises coming up. So if how would you what would you advise, or what would you advise startup founders to do in their own approach to adopting AI in maybe for operational efficiency, or maybe even for marketing? Because these days now, for me now, in the space that I play in, we leverage these tools, most especially for automation, in terms of automations, in terms of predictive analytics. So, what would you advise startup founders to do in their approach to of adopting AI?
So the first thing is, you need to evaluate what you are doing. What are your audience? And it's not about just adopting AI blindly, because it can be very, very costly,
Yeah,
right? So you also need to look into the return on investment of AI, right?
it's
If
very
you are
important.
deploying AI for your business startup and deploying AI, and you can actually get the labor, for at as low as as possible, right? Because sometimes there's something we call a CPI, cost per incident, cost relationship in
Yeah,
business. I'm more or less like a business person nowadays. And you want to evaluate quality to productivity to cost. There are three
yeah,
angles of every business. Quality, productivity is like quantity, then the cost, right? So your goal about the quality, right? If it's about the quality, that means that you will need, and if you now evaluate that, okay, how much more overhead are you going to put a little bit control on the quality, right? Then when you and evaluate that, now if you deploy AI, what is the cost relative?
yeah.
So for startup in Nigeria, right, the question is that how many of them really have that fund, to invest. I'm not just
Invest.
talking about just AI in Excel, AI. No, I'm talking about the core AI, that can actually help you to drive. Then now, if you invest in AI, what is that growth perspective? And that's where the policy comes in. What is that growth perspective? There are also some typical places that AI could function where I ever see now. Like in my own experience, yeah, I'm trying to go into agriculture, and how I can actually solve the typical problem of agriculture with artificial intelligence. I think you said that there's a point you're going to say, what's my big stuff I'm working on, right?
Yeah,
Today, the weather, uh, you know, um, weather forecast, what kind of vegetation is going to be held in what weather at what time, what can we actually plant. Okay, when we plant a mechanized stuff, right? One of the problem again we're having today is, okay, we see how Fulani are killing the farmers. Yeah, the question
yeah,
is that, does the farmers needs to always be, how can we safeguard our environment?
yeah,
You can deploy AI to as a surveillance.
yeah,
And the moment you saw those things, you don't need to go and confront those Fulani that will kill you, right? But at the end of the day, right, surveillance that can actually give like a signal to the security agent. The question is that, is their security agents are they actually ready to adopt
to
such?
adopt that.
And that is like proactive engagement.
Yeah,
Then another thing is that, okay, we see, we see people cannot go into mechanized farming because of tractor and all those things. There are little you know robotic stuff today that they can do the work the big tractors used to do. It can wet your vegetable in the morning, and maybe it's going to take 100 people to wet like 1 acre of land. A simple deployed, hopefully this works for me. A simple
yeah,
deployed robotic will do that. But now those things are also dependent on power.
yeah,
So now the question is that, today, do we have power? No. So now you have to invest so much in solar.
yeah,
Because when these things are doing all these things, somebody needs to also control it. Somebody needs to also get the report. Somebody also needs to, to be able to trace what is happening and all sorts. And with that, you need power.
you need
So,
power.
so there's a lot. So there are a lot we can do, you know, uh, with startups. So it depends on the kind of startup, what you're doing. What is the other? What do you want to achieve? Right? It depends. So all those, even in Microsoft, right? When we're doing pro-led growth, adoption of Copilot, the first thing is to understand the customer's business. What is your business need? What is your business goal? Then we looked at, okay, how does AI comes in? But one thing I can tell every startup is that AI can help you to drive or to maintain quality and increase quantity at the same time. That is, increase the productivity by maintaining the quality. Not that, as a human being, right? When the productivity increase, the probability that the quality is going to drop. No, in AI, it's like they are directly proportional. But with human intervention alone, it is inversely proportional. Right? So for startups but the question is, startups, most of them are not actually have the capacity for the quantity, for the productivity. It's all about the quality at the start. Right? Now the question is that if you are now adopting AI at the start to drive the quality without the productivity, you will run at loss. Because the only thing the AI can do to you is to improve your productivity level, and that's where you can make your money, by maintaining the quality. Now, as a startup, of course, you don't even have the market. You're a startup, so the productive level is not very, very important to you at that point.
Even considering the fact that most startups, of course, they have lean budgets, even in terms of numbers of the staff, so which of course would affect their productivity, and so but let's consider that let's just assume that, okay, we have everything in place. You have the power, you have the enabling environment, the policies that, of course, that supports adoption of AI and the growth of AI across the continent. So if you are to design a playbook, for African startup to adopting AI to improve our operational efficiency, what are the non-negotiable elements it must include?
Now, I always go practical, because every startup is solving a problem. Let me solve a typical problem in Lagos today.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why that is a problem. Do you know how many what they call lawma, people that clean the road in Lagos?
Yes,
is it lawma, or what they call them?
It's lawma, yeah, lawma.
Do you know how many of them that they used to get killed with eat and run cars?
Eat and run.
Today, we can save the life of those humans, of those aged people. In that busy areas where cars are running, and you are just, how would human being say that they are cleaning the Tomilola Bridge, right? And you are backing Ecomika, right? We can deploy AI to be doing those things easily, and they will do it far, far better than those aged humans. I know that they need to get work for those women, but where would those women comes in, right? They can be at the recovery side. Because when the robots clean, it is in Luton here. In Luton here, right? One day I never knew that it was a robot that was cleaning. In town center here. Not only cleaning, deep washing.
That's interesting.
It was developed by the University of Bedfordshire. It's an experiment. And these things are readily available. Go to China. Like, I plan to go to China with my friends soon. Imagine you deploy just 5 on Tomilola Bridge. They will clean that Tomilola Bridge more often, and more better. But now, is it going to displace those women? Yes, it's going to displace those women. But how can you make the use of those women? Put them at the other hands. Once people are actually offboarding all those things they clean, right? Somebody needs to, enable the process. You can put the human being there.
Yeah.
But in so doing, right, we've increased quality. We've increased, the productivity, right? We've, efficiencies.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. Okay, all these things are declared. What is Lagos State doing about, the debts, how are they converting those stuffs? All these, reducible, energies and all stuff. What are they doing about it? So let's say I'm a startup person, but the question is that would they give you that opportunity? No, they would rather want to, weaponize our people, thinking that they're giving them jobs and they're killing them. And by so doing, we're talking about Lagos. Lagos is mainly true. But do you know that you can actually deploy a sanitizer that will be flying around Lagos, right? And be killing all those mosquitoes, putting fresh air. It's possible. I've seen it before in France.
That's interesting.
Yes, I'm saying. I've seen it before. There's mosquito in Lagos, so.
There's been a lot of conversation going on that, guys. Let me
just give me that project of, okay, kill all the mosquito in Lagos Island. I will do it. All I just need to deploy is I'll invest in a robotic that flies. It's
That
going to be
flies
flying
around.
every day, every time. And what we just be doing, it's gonna be human. It's gonna be human friendly sanitizer. It's just gonna be like a flashy stuff. And before you know, right, Lagos will be mosquito free.
Wow.
It's gonna be odor free. I'm not just capping, right? There's not because I want to. All these things are already in existence, my brother.
Yeah. Just to localize them.
It's to localize them, to use them.
I mean, this brings me to the question: the fact that I can see that you have so much passion about this, and I mean, you of course looking for opportunity to even exercise the skills and the capacities that you have, right? So, what excites you most about the future of work, AI powered tools, and maybe even across different sectors?
To me, right, it's an opportunity to look for problems. That's the only excitement to me, because it makes me to think about what problems do I want to use them to solve.
Yeah.
I'm a very crazy guy. Sometimes I'll be driving in Bedfordshire. Do you know what I'm looking for? I'm looking for problems. It's even difficult to find a problem to solve in this UK self, because
Yes, I agree with you.
solved the only
They've
problem.
always solved all the problems because I've been
Problems.
looking for problems to solve too.
They solve all of them. But I can tell you that if I land in Lagos today, right, I can say 1,000 problems.
And that is why that's why it also validates the talk about the fact that there are problems in developing nations, right? That developing nations have a lot of problems. That's where you can easily go to solve all of those problems. There's a lot of it. I'll give you an example. Recently myself and my friend, we've been trying to have generate ideas to tackle the UK market, right? And of course, an idea that we can scale. But most of the ideas that came to us, and we're also thinking along artificial intelligence. Most of the ideas that came to us, they fit more into the developing nations and of course emerging markets, especially in Nigeria and Africa, right? So those were the problems we wanted to solve. Those ideas fit perfectly well for them. So we were looking at you guys like, you guys have solved all the problems, except we want to actually go ahead on with established organizations. But do you want to do that?
Do you know why people always say that there's money in Lagos, there's money in Africa? It's because there's a problem in Africa.
That's the problem.
Where
Yeah.
there's a problem, there's money.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
why you see all these people, the Europeans, why they want to go back to Africa. They cannot leave Africa because there's more
There's
resources and
money.
problems to solve. We have a lot of war to fight in Africa that we can even solve without losing our soldiers. We can solve some basic stuff, some things that kills people.
Yeah.
Now we talk about road maintenance. I've seen it here in Hertfordshire. In the middle of the night. Have you ever seen that there will be the middle of the night before you wake up, right? They don't fix the road here.
They fix the
I've
seen that happen.
They have the infrastructures. The last one I seen at Hertfordshire, it's robot doing the digging. Of course, somebody was controlling and it was doing the patching, and it was, yeah. I also see there was a place that there was a 12 stories building that they just built very close to me here, right? It doesn't take more than a year. And sometimes I don't even know that they were building anything.
They were building.
They didn't close the road, they didn't close anything. Everything was sealed. And do you think that is? I don't see. Do you know when they are building in Lagos, you see a lot of laborers. People go plenty. I know they see people for that place, so. But I knew that they are building something. So is it ghost that is building? They are using tools. So there are a lot of problems. So what excites me about AI and usage is problems. You need to this day. I'm just bored here looking for problems. Sometimes I just drive outside my neighborhood. I'll be driving at their local site. Of course, I've been seeing some, lately I've been seeing some stuff, to do. Processes here is also part, you need to also collaborate with maybe a British and somebody that's, but more problems I'm seeing that I think I can lay my hands on.
You can
excite me about it. It's back at home. I've given you a lot of problems I can solve in Lagos.
So I mean, coming back at home now we have so many problems in Africa. For example, you made mention about the fact that you in terms of agriculture, food insecurity is a big challenge in the continent now, most especially in Nigeria, because of their, because of all the, less, for example, the kidnapping, which of course has affected the, production in terms of food production. Because the farmers have, most of them have, some of them have
Yeah.
marketed their farm. So how are we? Should we be looking forward to? Do you have like a project that we should be looking forward to? In deployment of artificial intelligence for agriculture in Nigeria.
The question is, a lot of people are benefiting from all these stuffs. Would they allow you to do it?
To do it.
That's the honest truth, yeah. If today, if there's a guy a friend of mine that is a friend to some guy, it's like related to the governor. I was trying to use him to get attention. I've not even gotten attention of the people that can even say that, okay, let's do something.
Yes.
You write to them, you don't get a response. You want to get to them, people will say that you have to pay me money before I can. I'm the PA to PA to PA. Who wants to solve the problem? I can tell you, this is not about say that I'm just eager to get some. I'm tired of being an employee. Like I'm tired. Recently, too, I started my own agencies. From in tech world. Because I just want to start. And do you know what I'm tired of employees from the rejections? Sometimes when you get rejected to a point in your life, you feel like, okay, maybe there's even no job. You have the knowledge, you have the skills, create
You have
something.
the skills.
But
Yeah.
now, my job, if I'm creating something from the tech perspective, I need somebody that already have a problem that needs solution. So people
Solution.
that
Yeah.
even have the problem today, right, they are limited.
They don't.
Even if you have the
Yeah.
tech knowledge, okay, you have an agency that is running now. You've done all the pitching, right? You don't even, no customer is even coming forth and say that, or no starter is even coming forth and say that, okay, please, I need your service. Because I'm only running a service. So now I'm not trying to shift outside the rendering of the service to like, okay, let me even go into being a startup myself and
Yeah.
put my strength. I've done it before. I've failed in a couple of them and I'm going back again, right? Because I have to do it myself. If the job is not coming to put in your, okay, all my team, all our extensive team were laid off in Microsoft 2 days
Oh
ago.
yes, I read the news yesterday.
You're right. I left Microsoft like two months ago.
Wow.
I resigned.
Wow.
I see this coming. That's one thing people don't understand. They didn't lay me off. I resigned 2 months ago. Say 2 or 3 months ago, yeah. But before I resigned, right, I already put something in place for myself. And I told some of my colleagues that you need to be 2 steps ahead. My own team then, right, there are a lot of problems with organizational politics and all those stuff, right? And I see what the big stuff that is coming. As a smart guy from, I know where I come from, right?
Yeah.
Today, all the teams are closed.
I mean, I saw your post yesterday night on LinkedIn. Then I went ahead to Google to check, and then, of course, some other news platform that I followed, and I saw.
CX
I was like, wow.
team. I work with the CX team, with the product team. All of them have been laid off.
Wow.
And this is the problem, right? Even if it's coming from the big giant company, right? Talk of startups. And I tell you that people that makes a lot of my radical decisions to work, they are my circles. Now I want to shout out to 3 people in my life. These 3 people, right? If I want to make decision, I don't even talk to my family. Because that the people that say, Martin, let's do it. Okwemi Ahmed. Okwemi Ahmed is the co-founder or founder of the Coflix. He's using AI to solve telemetry problem in US. This is a guy that several times we've tried to, both of us have tried to get the attention of the Oyo State government. We went together in London. This is a guy that is doing exceptionally well in US.
I mean, I would actually love to have conversation with these guys.
Yeah, yeah, it's not a problem. I'm telling you the truth. There's another guy that one chose to be in Nigeria, engineer today, Ahmed. But when you see this guy, right, this guy has a staff rent of like 50. He's the one that single-handedly do the installation of the adoption of the new AC in Nigeria from the seaport. The seaport in Nigeria, this guy is the one that do it. What this guy do is often he always update himself about
the development,
industrial AC. He comes to UK, study what the new thing they are doing. He goes back to his design.
Wow.
Right? So Then Bengena is my ex-boss. That one is working with an NHS. Is doing so well, right? But these are the and Femi is a security guy. Then Timmy and also these are the core guys that if I sometimes I just want to, because I'm the kind of guy that I'm not comfortable.
Yeah.
I just want to. What is next? What is next for me? You see problem coming. What, like if problem is going to happen, right? I always see it coming.
You see it from afar.
I see it from afar and I make my decision fast.
And then you jump. You jump before you get knocked.
So what I'm saying here is that, like me, now every day I'm just looking for problems.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of problems to solve in Nigeria. But
I mean, before I bring the conversation to a close, I would actually love to talk about the fact that there are, even though there are, what are the negative sides of artificial intelligence? I believe that no matter how good something we have, something good, there of course would be some negative aspects. For there might be ethical issues, there might be maybe data privacy or whatever. So what are the negative areas, and do you think that there will be a time that there will be friction maybe between artificial intelligence and human collaborations?
Yeah, that's truth.
So how should we prepare for it?
I will tell you, like, there's always a revolution to all these things. There was a time that everybody keeps their data on premises. Banks, their data resides on their servers and they run generator 247. It's not cost effective for them, but their generator needs to be running 247. If they want server breaks like this, everybody's dead. And then the old scene of cloud comes in. We begin to sell idea of clouds. I'm taking you to the journey, right? The idea of and that is how you have to prepare yourself in the tech environment. You don't stay one side. And I also tell you about that. And the point when cloud comes is when we started off 365, we were very lucky to be in that. So everybody was moving to the cloud. Everybody was moving to the cloud. They were moving from on-premises to the cloud. At some point, right, the issue of data theft comes in. People are now worried about their data. Who is accessing my data? From where? From which location? So at some point in time, what was selling is data migration engineer. People that helps people to move from their data from on-premises to the cloud. Later on, the problem is that how secure is even my data? I don't even know where my data is. Where do people even keep my data? Who is accessing it? From where? How? And data security comes in. For the smart people then, which is still selling now. That's why I say everybody is going to the cybersecurity. We've left the era of data migration. So if you are still a data migration engineer, you are outdated.
Now people are talking about GUC and all.
Yeah.
GCC or whatever.
Now that's where cybersecurity is selling now.
Yeah. Because
the target is the cloud. Your data is in the cloud. And so I can be somewhere in the local side of my house in Lagos or in Ikwitikesha, right? And now if I have the knowledge, I can actually try to break into your data
system.
Because your data is in the cloud. Everybody have access to it. The only thing I need is the passcode to bypass the stuff. And so the thing is all about, like, we begin to look into the MFAs, we begin to look to data loss policies, begin to look in depth into data security, information protections, Then after that, the GDPR in Europe comes in. Okay, you have to keep our data in the Europe. Then you see that Microsoft sometimes we're migrating data from US, the European data, so we're moving it to the Euro because we feel like based on government policies. Right? Now, we're already living the era of data security. But of course, this is the biggest thing that is selling now. So data security is wide. I have my data in the cloud. Yeah. Who is accessing my data is actually using the device, and that's where the MDM comes in, mobile device management. Ma'am, how are they accessing and that's why people now talk about the fact that you join an organization, you're accessing the organization data from your phone. You lost your phone. I can wipe the phone. I don't need to be worried about it. Remember, the phone is lost. Before, can you think about that?
No.
You don't need to be worried. Your system got lost. I can wipe the system. You're leaving the organization. And you don't want to leave this complete system. I can wipe the system. I can lock the system and I can make the system useless for you. Unless if that system is not connected to the internet. As long as that system is company managed or you've been accessing it with company, we access company information. And now, so people are making money from the Intune, data management, data security, endpoint security. Now I'm leading one of my projects now. That I'm leading the endpoint team. It's also Microsoft project. But it's MSP. That's one of the things I'm working on. I'm leading the endpoint team. Now we are literally living. Security is still the big deal. We now move to AI. AI.
Yeah.
We want to scale up our productivity. We want to scale up productivity and still scale up the quality without dropping the quality.
Yeah.
Now, people are worried that am I going to lose my job? You can't lose your job. And I've said it previously, right? Any organization that is saying that you're losing your job because of AI, they failed. Because what they don't understand is that, right, there will always be a problem at some point in time.
Yeah.
It might not happen 2-3 years, but when it happens, it's going to eat them raw. So AI is not meant to replace people. It's meant to enable people to improve your productivity. And I've given an example of what Foxer is doing. I give an example of what Spotify is doing. I said this in some of my podcasts. Now, the next thing is going to be like, okay, especially for the companies that they are relying on AI 100%, the problem is going to be the AI security.
Yeah.
How am I even sure how this guy is actually using my data? If glitch happened today, what's going to happen to my data? Right? And that is where, the friction is going to come in. Some people already started doubting, some organizations say that we never use AI in our company. It's because of that perception of the fact that, okay, this is not human.
Yeah.
That is actually reading my data, executing my data, doing that job for me, right?
Yeah.
If anybody take control of that, I'm done. So it's very rare to see banks adopting. Banks are always the least people that always adopt these things.
Because even now, the organization, we have people building agents.
Yeah,
agents,
co-pilot agents. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking about one of the things I was building recently. I was using Copilot. I was building Copilot agent. Do you know what I was using Copilot agent doing? It's a typical problem today, and that's why I said I'm the kind of person I look for problem to solve.
Problems.
Now, sometimes you need to apply for different jobs for different job descriptions.
Yes.
Do you need to rewrite your CV all the time? That's a problem.
You need agents to do that.
And you need an agent to do it.
Yeah.
I'm still writing with the Copilot agents. I'm still building something. What if you have an agent based on the job description? You have my CV, right? You write it for me, not the ones that is just rewriting CV. Typical agents that you can actually interrupt and say no. You can interrupt in the process. Not the one that will just write it and you put wordy and they will say that it was written by AI. No, I'm talking about the one that you can interact with. Okay, this, and from there it's actually building something, and it can do the finance. Okay, I did this, and it's going to learn from it, and that's where the generative AI comes in. So yeah, the security part is going to be a problem, and the people where the friction is going to come in organizations that actually solely
relies
on AI.
On AI.
With that, organization that doesn't build AI around human-centered revolution. The revolution should be built around human. The revolution shouldn't be built around AI.
Yeah.
And that's where the organization culture and strategy comes in. So it depends on the risk.
Yeah. Thank you for. It's been an engaging moment, and I actually have to appreciate you for coming on this platform to have this conversation, because I've learned quite a lot in terms of artificial intelligence and its usage in application across different sectors. So, but before I close this program, before I close this conversation, I just wanted to have like your final take, maybe on the use of AI, maybe for the African market or African startup founders, or even the government. Maybe it might be in terms of policy, might be in terms of usage, or maybe in terms of the literacy aspect, which of course speaks to trainings and capacity building for young African talents.
And the first thing is that I think the Gen Zs, the new generations, they don't want to learn, right? We get carried away a lot. And somebody was telling me that why do I decide to put my content on TikTok? Is because I realized that today, where do you find the Gen Zs on TikTok? What are they doing on TikTok? Is that they are looking, exposed body. I told people today, if I'm exposing my body, if I'm talking bullshit, I'll be having 1 million views.
Of course, definitely.
Right, but because I'm putting out content that could help people's life, I'm only having 300 views, and maybe I'm only having 1% interaction, which is fine. So the mindset needs to change. In some countries, in China, where do you find Gen Zs? You find them in the industrial areas. You find them thinking. The people providing solutions today, they are the Gen Zs, they are the new generations, because they're the one that can actually adopt that technology faster than the millennium or whatsoever the previous generations. So I think in Africa there's a misuse of our generation's talents. I sometimes out of boredom if I go to TikTok today, is that I just see people sitting there for 5 hours, 6 hours talking rubbish,
Yeah.
exposing their bodies.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not saying I'm not saying, but I'm saying that if really now, but who needs to change that narrative is the government. You need to control the content. Today, people are just consuming any content.
Yeah.
I'm not speaking that they should ban,
Social
content
media,
creation,
yeah.
but what are the things we're consuming?
Yeah.
So as long as it's a free market content, we are, it's intentional. That there are some content are coming to our way, and it's distracting us a lot. To even know that we've left the life behind. People know how to use TikTok end to end, right?
Yeah.
Or they don't understand the technology that is driving TikTok end to end. Not the government even know how their data is being processed. Where's their data going? Who is consuming their data? So that is the first thing. Government has work to do to put a little bit control, not to their selfish interest, to shut people up from freedom of speech. Because now, if the government is going to do it now, right, the people they'll be targeting is that people that are actually saying the truth. The activism and all those things, because they know that these are the people. So if the government is having that mindset of put a control in social media platform or the content creating platform just for their own interest, they are killing the nation more.
Yeah.
That is all I'm saying here. All I'm saying here is that they need to help the country to consume more of content that can help them to become more, right? Just like the ones that we do, the ones that you do, the ones that a lot of people do, right?
Yeah.
Tech content, creative content, even comedy is a great content, right? Because comedy is healing nowadays.
Oh,
I do it
yes.
a lot when I'm mentally down, right?
I do that.
I
just
have my preferred comedy
yeah.
content. This I'm sorry, this guy, I'm sorry boy, or what was his name? Pastor Remote. I watch all
Oh,
those
yeah,
guys.
yeah. Nas boy.
Nas boy,
Nas
yeah.
boy, yeah.
I
Remote,
watch those guys. And it heals me now, because sometimes when you smile, you forget your problems, and when you just get some rejections, you forget your problems. We need to enable those kind of guys.
Yeah.
Help them. Put a little bit of structure around them. Help more people. People. And another thing is that all these things are helping people to identify their talents. Before now, people don't blow from their village. Today, if you have talent in Equity, right?
Oh,
You
yeah.
have access to these tools, and you are doing the right content. Somebody in abroad can see it, right? And you can get help, right? So these are the things I'm saying. But what are the idiots that they are exposing their body, their everything on the? These are the people we need to block. We need to deploy an artificial intelligence that can actually identify, those bullshit and block people naturally. Not that it doesn't exist in TikTok, but because the government is not asking for it, right? They will not deploy those features for us.
Yeah.
And that's why I say, if you go to China, there are some content that we have access to. In China, it doesn't. It will never pop up. In US, it will never pop up. In UK, it will never pop up. Right? In US now, right? If any content about LGBTQ or whatsoever, it will never pop up. But because we are government, we are not educative about how. It's only when you know what you want, then you can ask. Oh, these are the features I need for my people. So I don't want to overflog that. That's one, because I would say that that the inclusive learning methodology is key to our progress. And you can't force people, right? You can only take the realm at which people are more available. And what are the realm? TikTok, Facebook, all sort of stuff. These are the way the markets are. These are the way people are living. There are some kids nowadays that they wake up, they sleep on their mobiles. What are they doing on their mobiles? Some people have iPhone, they're not even using 1%, 2% of what the iPhone can do.
Yeah.
right? So the educative part and the mindset shift is very key, but the government has a lot of to play because there's a lot of policies that can actually help, in this context. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then the second thing is that we need to put in policies that can attract. There are a lot of patriotic Nigerians out there. Although some people don't bloody care, I have a lot of friends that say I will never come back to that country. But me, right? If I have a space, I want to be in my country. If I have a space to execute my knowledge, to execute my, if I have a
Innovative
policy that can
ideas.
protect my investment, bro, how will I put all my savings on something that you can wake up tomorrow because
And it's
okay,
gone.
APC comes on board or PDP comes on board and they say you just change policy. Policy always change like water in Nigeria. Where there's no stable policies, I can say in the next 10 years, this policy is going to be stable. So it still down to, so how do we attract people back home? How do you attract people that have the knowledge to solve problems back home? How do you create a channel that makes these people accessible to you? I've been trying to make access to the Lagos state government or your state government or your state government for the last 2 years. I've not been opportune. I've not been opportune. How do we grow when there's a lot of block access? Everybody I meet, they bring money because I want to solve problems.
Because you want to solve problems.
The ones I went in the slum myself, I spent a lot of money. And you know why I do that? Because I want to have a prototype.
Oh, I get that.
And that's how I have to go through that route. Right? So now the government needs to help us that we are patriotic enough to have access to them. It's not even about the fact that, I want to make living from all those stuff, right? But the government is going to see the impact on the citizen here. It's also down to a lot of things that we're doing, patriotic Nigerians outside there. There are a lot of people that know more than me. There are a lot of people that they're doing more work than me.
Yeah.
All I can say is that there's no place like home.
Oh, definitely.
We're already facing it.
Definitely.
Immigration rules are tightening up every day.
Every day.
Right?
Yeah.
A lot of people are rendered useless here. A lot of us. Not because we are not intelligent. Not because we are not productive. Right? I think we need to start thinking as an entrepreneur than thinking of survival. I'm also speaking to myself.
I get that.
Because a lot of us were waiting for employer to employ us when we actually have the strength,
the skills,
the
and the knowledge, and the capacity to.
Of course, I know that we are still waiting for opportunity to make it happen.
Of course,
right?
Of course.
But we need to make that push. So that's where I'm going to stop today, right? And I hope
I